Hey there. If we haven't met, my name is Lisa Mustard, and I'm the person behind the scenes of the Therapy Show with Lisa Mustard, a podcast where I interview seasoned and knowledgeable talk therapists from the counseling world to glean valuable insights, techniques, and tools that you can apply to your practice and your life. Plus, you can also earn continuing education contact hours from some of my episodes. So, to learn more about the show and get your first continuing education contact hour for free, head on over to my site, lisamustard.com.
A little over 15 years ago, when I started my private practice, I had to learn a lot, and most of it the hard way, and I don't think you need to do the same. Hi, I'm Gordon Brewer, a licensed psychotherapist, and welcome to the Practice of Therapy podcast, part of the Psychcraft network of podcasts. Join me in this journey of discovery as we have conversations with other leaders and professionals in both the mental and allied health fields. Join us as we explore both the business and clinical sides of running a private practice. Hello, folks, and welcome to the podcast. I'm Gordon Brewer, and this happens to be episode number 249. And if this is the first time for you to listen to the podcast, welcome. Glad you're here. And if you're coming back for more, you've probably noticed something a little different about the podcast for this particular episode. And I'm real excited about some of the changes coming with the practice of therapy and some new things that are happening. And this particular intro, we decided to refresh the music and do a little bit something different. And also you heard from Lisa Mustard at the beginning of this podcast from the Therapy Show podcast. And I'd love for you to go check her out at her podcast. Lisa is going to be a guest here in the next few episodes of the podcast. And so you'll get to hear more from Lisa here, but check her out at the Therapy Show podcast. And you can get that wherever you listen to your podcast. So lots of big things happening here at the practice of therapy. And you're going to get to hear from James Marland in this episode. And James is kind of the part of this story of some of the changes going on with what we're doing with the podcast and just this new network that I've started. So just real quickly, I wanted to let folks know, and this is kind of an announcement here in this episode, is that I've started a podcast network. And it's called the Psychcraft Network. And I've got several other great podcasts that have joined me in this collaboration. And we formed a little network. And Lisa Mustard at the Therapy Show is one of the members of that network. Also, we've got Daniel Fava with the Private Practice Elevation podcast and the Shrink Think podcast with Aaron Potratz and Nathan Hawkins. All of these people you've heard on this podcast before. And also Kim Tolson with the Traveling Therapist podcast. And you'll get to hear from Kim in this next episode. But anyway, I'm so excited to have this group of people to collaborate with me in this podcast network. And you're going to hear more and more about that as we move through the rest of the year. And we are getting a website up here shortly. Maybe by the time this episode comes out, that website will be live. But you'll find that website at the psychcraftnetwork.com. And you're going to get to hear more and more about all of that. So anyway, James is also is in this episode. James has been with me on previous episodes, but James is part of that project as well. But in this episode, we're going to be talking about how you can use courses, particularly online courses, as ways to increase your reach and also increase your ability to diversify your income. So looking forward to you hearing from James here in just a moment. But before we get to that, well, another thing, a few other things I'd love for you to find out about is one of the things that I've started this year as well is a new online community on the Circle platform. And it's the Practice of Therapy community on the Circle platform. And again, you'll find links here in the show notes. One of the things that was really important for me is to really be able to give people a safe place to just ask questions and be able to get resources and interact with each other. That was all kind of the typical social media platforms. I'm really kind of moving away from Facebook with my communities. And so that's why I've got this Practice of Therapy community on Circle. And if you go to that, again, there'll be links here in the show notes and the show summary. And you can also go to practiceoftherapy.com/community and get to that and join. And it's free to join and to get in on the ground level with this. And it's just a way for people to interact with each other and get tips and resources from me in a community setting. And speaking of communities, I also want to let you know that the Practice Launch Club community, which is a membership community, is still looking for members to that. And particularly if you're in those beginning stages of private practice, that is what the Practice Launch Club is geared to do. So you can find out more about that by going to practiceoftherapy.com/launch club. And the doors are open and to become a member of that community. And so that's all I'm going to say about that right now, because I'm throwing a lot of information at you in this particular episode. So just to recap those kinds of things, the Sightcraft Network, you can find that at sightcraftnetwork.com to learn about the other podcasters that are in this network with me. And they are some great people, and I'm really looking forward to you learning more from them as we move forward. Check out the Practice Launch Club at practiceoftherapy.com/launch club, and also the practiceoftherapy.com/community. And you can join the Practice of Therapy community for free just by going to that URL and getting logged in and sign up for the Circle platform through that community. So I know that was a lot, and it's kind of like drinking out of a fire hose today. So I apologize for that. But real quickly here, before we get to my interview with James, I'd love for you to hear more about TherapyNotes.
As your practice grows, the systems and processes you have in place will keep your practice running smoothly. That is why it is important to have an electronic health record system that is specific to mental health providers. TherapyNotes is a complete practice management system with everything you need to manage patient records, schedule appointments, meet with patients remotely, create rich documentation, and bill insurance right at your fingertips. Their streamlined software is accessible wherever and whenever you need it. They're who Gordon uses in his practice. And did I mention that they are one of the top-rated EHRs for mental health private practices? Their support is also second to none. Be sure to check them out at practiceoftherapy.com/therapynotes. Be sure to use the promo code GORDON to get 2 months free.
Well, hello, everyone, and welcome again to the podcast. And I'm glad to have back with me on the podcast, James Marland. Hey, James.
Hi, Gordon. Thanks for having me.
Yes. And James has been working on some pretty cool stuff and kind of pivoting and transitioning from other things that he's been doing. But he's kind of within private practice circles. James getting to be kind of known as kind of the expert at help people outsource better and being able to do things more efficiently. So, James, as I start with everyone, why don't you tell folks a little more about yourself and how you've landed where you've landed?
All right. Well, thanks, Gordon. And thank you again for having me on the show. So how I've ended up where I am is for the last 3 years, I was working at a virtual assistant company providing virtual assistant services for mental health providers. And during that time, I met, a lot of cool people, Gordon and Whitney and some of the other people, Daniel, and everywhere. And I talked to many, many providers, just, hundreds of providers over the last 3 years, trying to build their business, expand their business, and do more things. And a key theme that kept coming up in those conversations and meeting with people and trends that I'm picking up on is that time is limited, right? The amount of services you can provide, the amount of things you can do during the day, there is a limit to those things. And for the last 3 years, I was helping people with their admin work, with scheduling and insurance type services. And now currently I am helping people build online courses.
Wow. Yes. And I know James and I have been talking about just some of the things that I've been doing as far as, and he's given me a lot of good ideas, is really kind of assisting me on all of this. I'll put in just a really quick plug here for in the middle of launching a new podcast network called the Sightcraft Network. And so James has been helping me on the back end with a lot of that stuff. So James is really good at being able to help people do things more efficiently and really kind of helping put the systems together in a way. But one of the things that I know, James, you wanted to talk about is just this whole idea of course creation, which I think for a lot of clinicians, that might be something that sounds a little bit intimidating, but it really is something that is a way for us to not possibly diversify income streams, but really have a greater reach with folks. So just tell folks a little more about your thinking around all of that.
So first, I'm a lifelong learner. Mm-hmm. I really enjoy reading and researching and figuring things out. Like, I want to know why and what and how things work. And courses in the form of like degrees and things has really opened the doors for my life. Learning those skills, learning those things has really changed me in a way that I can't comprehend. Like those courses have, and what the teachers who invested in me have changed my life. So personally, I'm a fan of learning new things to improve your life and to improve things that are going on in your life. Mm-hmm. And as I was talking with a therapist in a conference one day, she was talking about teenagers, and she did some work with teenagers, troubled teens. And I was thinking about, I'm raising a teenager, and how cool would it be to be able to access what she knew about her situation, her experience. And, I've been doing this for 20 years or whatever. I'm like, oh my word. Because we just went out to dinner together and we just talked about teenagers for a while. And it just got me started to think, there are hundreds, thousands of therapists just like her who have a wealth of experience. They're experts in their field. They know how to do it. And then there's parents like me who are struggling with, kids, and they're growing up, and now he's 18. He's 18. He doesn't like it when I talk about him, but he's 18. And how do I deal with my transition from a parent that had a small kid to now helping him launch and grow and do those things? Mm-hmm. And so that's a personal reason. Like, someday I hope to be able to launch a course for somebody that just like that, how do I help my teenage launch successfully, or some sort of course like that. The second personal reason is it's another family reason, is I have my parents adopted a child late in life. They're in their 70s now, and my sister is in her teenage years. So there's this big gap there, and they're getting older. Their mobility is older, and some of the specialists and things are out there. They're not in their hometown, and so could I help somebody launch a course that could bring the experts to my parents' house and help them navigate their own situation, their own learning and understanding to help them grow, because they're getting support in their own town, but the experts are out there, for their specific area. The experts are not close to them. So, and I know that there are people who specialize with what they're going through. There just isn't the access there. So my dream is to create things to help people like myself that love learning, want to build, but also help people get access to the courses and information and experts that the online courses help us do.
Yes. And and I know, as James and I were chatting before we started recording, one concept that I think, I know one thing about most of us, and particularly in the specific niche of mental health, but it also translates out to other kind of helping professions. We're limited in our ability to help but so many people. And there's only so much time in a day that we can do stuff. I mean, the traditional way of doing therapy or helping people is within our professions is just one-to-one. You got somebody sitting in front of you and you're working with them, or, in the case of a physical therapist, they're working with one particular person. But the one thing about doing courses or just doing things like that is you move from doing the one-to-one way of providing service or help to people to the one-to-many. And I think there's just, I think people are, like you said, alluded to, James, I think people are hungry for the knowledge and are looking for ways to get help in a particular area.
Yeah, well, just look at all the books that go out on those types of subjects, or even, type into your Google search bar, how do I deal with whatever, and it pops up. So there are people out there looking for knowledge. We are and knowledge and sharing knowledge has never been easier, just with location and online courses and being able to access the experts easier, cheaper.
Right. And the other thing too is that I think, again, particularly those of us kind of in the mental health professions, a lot of the knowledge and expertise that we have can translate in so many different ways. And I think being able to communicate that through something like an online course is a good way to do that. So James, tell folks maybe a little bit more about kind of your concepts around being able to help providers do the, instead of the one-to-one, the one-to-many.
Sure. So part of this is providing a plan, right, or a path for people to follow. I think when people have lots of options and lots of information, it gets overwhelming. And so having a clear stage and plan where you identify who your customer is, identify your niche, create a business strategy, a business plan, a marketing strategy, like where you're going to host it, those things. If I can give them options and just a plan of what works, then all they have to do is take what they know and apply it to the plan. It sounds that's almost sounded too easy. There is some work to it. Like you got to do a little bit of market research, and you got to like talk to people, and you have to get feedback and ideas. You also have to, create the slides and audio or video, whatever you have to do. But once you create the templates, you just follow the plan and work it out. And there's lots of benefits to creating a course. It's not just I'm going to create this course and sell it. There's a lot of other things that you can do with that course as part of a grander or bigger business strategy, because most therapists at right now, I would assume, they're not into the course building business, but they can see how a course could benefit their practice.
Right. It's we kind of alluded to it, but it's a great way, I think, for clinicians that are looking for ways to diversify their income, which again, in the folks that I consult with, that's something I really encourage them to do, is to look for other ways to create income for yourself so that you're not constantly building a caseload to where you reach a sort of a glass ceiling with your caseload, but being able to be able to kind of have the time that you need and create ways to build passive income for yourself within your practice.
Yeah, those are kind of two of the benefits I have. I read a book, The Ultimate Course Formula, and there's a lot of good information there, and it was easily adaptable to therapy practices. One of the benefits was automated income. So if you build a course, yes, there's work right at the front end, but then that course can be, selling day and night, or you can relaunch it at certain times. For example, if you build a business course for other therapists, you can launch it around tax time, around budget time. If you have a course for school-age kids, every year they go to school, so you could launch a course, have a successful first day of school, have a successful summertime, during those regular school times, holidays, winter blues, the all sorts of seasonal type things. You can have this automated income that just keeps coming back over and over again as you launch it. And then the second way of, revenue is if you record some steps, you give people the information, give them homework, and then they come back for a one-on-one session with you after they've done their homework. That is a way to, that's kind of the normal therapy model anyways, right? You give homework, have them do it, talk about their homework. And that's one way to generate a higher level of revenue from just an online course. That most online courses, or many online courses without that one-on-one component, will sell from, free as an online content creator, or to $99 without the recurring comeback, without that coaching. So,
it's one of the things about creating courses. I've got several that I put out there. It's a lot of work on the front end, and really being able to know how to organize things, and like you said, get slide decks together, be able to record it and edit the recording, all of that sort of thing, and then getting it posted up on whatever platform you're using to present the courses and that sort of thing. And so really part of what your expertise is, and James, is helping people organize all of that on the back end.
Yeah, taking the mystery out of it, taking the frustration out of it. Like I talked to some people about their frustrations, and they were like, how long does it take, and what's the technology, and do you use lights or cameras, and what program do you use and where do you host it, and how much does all this cost? That's a lot of research, but guess what? That's what I like to do. It's right up my alley. I like researching this and providing people with options and giving people, there's ranges. Like you can record you can record perfectly fine on a $20-$30 camera, or you can buy, $100 camera. It's kind of what are you going for? And here's the secret about cameras, though. I like tech and tools. So, but the content is actually the king. Like, people don't necessarily care what the teacher looks like or what's going on. You have to have a minimum amount of professionalism. But beyond that, they want the benefits of the course. Like, people don't buy courses for what the course is. They buy it for what it does. They want they want why they get the course. You have a course on Google, right? And so why do people take their course on Google? It's not necessarily because they love Google. They want to be better at what they're doing. They want that benefit of the course.
Yes. And that's and that was one of the things, too, just having done several courses now. One of the things that all of my courses have come out of have been something that I've been passionate about, that I wanted to teach people. And so, like you mentioned, the Google Workspace for Therapists course and that sort of thing, and then the Money Matters course, and I've got another one on just getting started in private practice, and all of that came out of just kind of my my passion. And I think that's something that people need to take into account when they're thinking about, okay, could I create a course, or could I create some other sort of content? It doesn't necessarily have to be a course. I mean, really, I would say even dream big and do like a podcast or something like that. I think it's very doable. And one of again, the thing is that you don't have to be intimidated by that, and that you can get the help and the expertise to help kind of walk you through the process of pulling all that together.
Right. One of the things I keep coming up with is, don't be worried about things that you don't need to be worried about at this moment. They're like, people are worried about, how do I build 8 courses, or how do I talk on a podcast for 6 months, and create a podcast. You create what is in front of you right now. You don't worry about the problems that you don't need to worry about in the moment. There are experts and people to help as you go through. One of the things that I'm learning how to do better is funnels, funneling your courses. When I was starting, 3 or 4 months ago, I thought, and this was before I did the research, but I was thinking, I need to have all these courses built, all the pipeline built, the whole thing built right from the beginning. And then one of the books I was reading said that's not how education works. Most of the time, people, when you take a class, you get the syllabus, you say, okay, I want to take that class. Then over a progression of time, the teacher teaches the class, and they build it ahead of you, and they take the feedback that you're giving in the class and how the class is doing to improve on the next class. And I think that works for podcasts too. You don't have to have a year's worth of content. You build a few, get some feedback, improve, build the next one, improve, get the feedback. That's how the education system works in our country anyways right now. You do it, improve it, do it again. Keep improving.
Yeah. And I think too, one of the things that I know one point, James, that you have kind of hit on that I want to really kind of emphasize is that people listening to this podcast you have some expertise in some particular area, and you have things that you're passionate about that you want to get people get the information out there. Don't get too hung up on how you're going to get it out there, because that's what people like James can do for you, is help you get it out there. But I would say identify what it is that you're passionate about, and really think about how you're going to, what you want to communicate. A metaphor that just kind of came to me as we were talking, James, is, if somebody is going to have surgery. I've got a friend that's getting ready to have some knee surgery, and I dare say that most of the back end stuff leading up to his surgery, that doctor is not going to be involved in that. They're going to be nurses, they're going to be techs, they're going to be all these people that do all this stuff on the back end to lead up to the actual surgery, which is what the doctor's expertise is in. But the back end stuff, getting prepped for that surgery, he doesn't do at all. And so leaving it to other people that are kind of experts in that. It's just anybody that's had surgery, that you deal with a lot of people before the surgeon even comes in to see you. And in fact, you might even be knocked out and not even talk to the surgeon. They're just going to come in and do the individual fix. So I think creating a course, if you think about it that way, and then being able to outsource with folks like James, it really takes a lot of the pressure off about getting a course out there.
Yeah, one of my dream clients would be somebody who has, something they've learned, an outline or something, and they don't want to do the PowerPoint. They just want somebody to put it up for them. Then they'll talk about it. Then they don't want to they don't want to put it into a Teachable or some sort of platform, that type of stuff, that they might not even be interested in learning how to do any of that. But it would be just like you said, you learned something, then you created a course. There's a lot of people who have learned things, a lot of therapists who have learned how to do their business, or how to do a technique, or how to deal with certain types of clients that they could help other therapists learn. They have it in their notes already. It just needs to get, generated and put out there.
Right.
There was somebody recently wrote like a 10 point, it was like a 10-point outline on how they cured their insomnia, or how they were working on their insomnia. And I'm like, right there. It was like, there's a mini course right there.
Right.
In Facebook that happens all the time.
Yeah.
Because they did a lot of work on that, and it was for them, and they shared it, and they could share it in a greater audience. Not necessarily they could generate money, but it could also be like marketing. Like, okay, I'm going to make this course on insomnia. If you want to have, and then at the end of the course, give that away for free. At the end of the course, say, if you want to work with somebody who understands your struggles, here's my number, here's my webpage. Let's do a one-on-one, homework assignment, counseling. You could maybe make a group course out of it. Those types of things are that it seems like there's lots of, low-hanging fruit on those things before you even have to think terribly hard about, well, what's my next course? Right. You made something about your passions that helped you, and you just turned it, turned your already used material into something that other people would want to use, and it connected.
Yeah. One example that comes to mind of that, James, is, for those of us that do therapy, if you think about it, when we get new clients, and, I think particularly if you're, if you are a therapist that has a specific niche, which, by the way, every therapist should have a specific niche, but if you are a therapist that has a specific niche, if you were to think about the sessions you've had with people over the years, you tell them the same things, and you give them the same information, the same psychoeducation. share with them the same information. And so being able to kind of catalog that information and put it in a course format, you could probably help a whole lot more people than you're able to just the one-on-one.
And on the back end of that, you could have a course on how to get the most out of your therapy. Like these are the 4 skills that people use who get the most out of their therapy. It's sort of like a customer service type of use, because many people that they've never been to therapy, so they don't exactly know what they're doing. So you could use a course or just a short mini course on, how to best use what we're doing. Here's, there's just a lot of creative ideas, and I'm sure we're just scratching the surface on how our experts, our expert helpers and healers can have, they've already, like, it's in them. I believe there's a course, at least one, in every helper and healer. They know how to do it, and they know what works. And it just excites me that I can be a part of the process to help more people.
Right. You mentioned something, an idea, and I have to give a shout out to our mutual friends, Aaron Potratz and Nathan Hawkins, that they created a course very much what you described, that just simply prepares clients for therapy. And so,
very cool.
And so when they have an intake or whatever, they have their clients go and take this mini course, just preparing them on what to expect when they start coming to therapy. So, I mean, that's just one of, a plethora of ideas that people can do, and putting courses together and just really thinking about the knowledge that you have and ways in which you can do this. So, James, any parting thoughts here on all of this?
Parting thoughts. So course creation can sound scary, because there is some technical parts to it, but there's plenty of resources out there. There's plenty of people doing it. One of the things, you might have heard this about starting a business, but when's the best time to create a course, right? The best time to create a course was probably 5 to 10 years ago, right? Like in the beginning, where you hear all these people now who are writing books and they're grading. But the second best time to create a course is today. So just like starting a business, I wish I would have done this 5 years ago. And as I'm going through this course creation material, I'm like, I was down on myself a little bit. Oh man, I wish I would have started. Like, I can't believe just how much fun it is, and like how much growth there is and how much potential there is. And I wish I would have started so long ago, but that you can start today. So don't let that detract from you. The other thing is imposter syndrome is another big problem that people are like, who's going to listen to me? And the thing I want to say about that is, how many pizza shops are in your town? If they would have listened to, if the second pizza shop would have said, there's already a pizza shop here, I can't do it, there'd only be one pizza shop. But guess what? In my town alone, in like a 10-mile radius, there's like 15 or 20, there's all these pizza shops and Italian restaurants and things that do their own brand and connect with their own brand of people, and they're successful in their own right. And probably the customers don't cross-pollinate too much. And that's the same way with courses. You have your way of doing something that's going to connect with your audience. And there's ways to do your research to craft your perfect pitch and your perfect niche to get to your clients. So that's what I want to leave you with. Don't have the imposter syndrome, and don't believe that you're too late to get started, because the best time to start is today.
Right. So, great wisdom there, James. So tell folks how they can get in touch with you to find out more, if they want to start a conversation with you about maybe doing some course creation and
absolutely,
that sort of thing.
Well, I'll include a link for you to get some freebie. I think I'm going to put out the first, like how to niche down out for free. Like even if you're just started and thinking, how can I even do this? I'd like to give you that free course. And then I'm going to be James at coursecreationstudio.com. James at coursecreationstudio.com. And I am building the webpage now, so it should be up by the time this is released. Coursecreationstudio.com. And I would love to have conversations with people. One of the things I did for the last 3 years is talk to private practice owners and listen to their dreams and get excited about what they're excited about. So please drop me a line. Let's start that conversation so I can help you out.
Awesome. And as James alluded to, we'll have links here in the show notes and the show summary so you can access that easily. So James, thanks for being on the podcast again. And I'm sure folks are going to be hearing a lot more from you here in the future.
My pleasure, Gordon. Thank you so much.
Well, big thanks to James for being with me on the podcast again. And I really love the things that James brought up in this particular episode. Kind of a take home, at least for me, that I think is important for people to remember is being able to look for ways to diversify your income, because just doing traditional therapy and being able to do that one-to-one kind of interaction with people kind of, in many ways, kind of limits your reach, and there's a limit to how much of that you can do. But by creating other streams of income, particularly like courses, which create what is sometimes referred to as passive income for yourself, can really kind of boost your practice. And also just being able to do, going from the one-to-one way of doing things to the one-to-many way of doing things. And I know it's made a difference in my practice and in what I'm doing, especially with the practice of therapy. And if you want to get some ideas about courses, you can join me on the Circle community. As I mentioned at the beginning of this, I'm moving the practice of therapy community to the Circle platform, which is already set up. And you can go to practiceoftherapy.com/community and sign up for free to become part of that community. And it will be a safe place for you to ask questions, have conversations with other clinicians, and get the support you need in running your private practice. And the other thing I'll mention here is if you are in those beginning stages of running a private practice, I've got another exclusive community or membership available called the Practice Launch Club. And if you've been following the podcast for some time now, you will have heard me mention that back in June when I launched that. But I'm still accepting members to that community and to that membership. And we meet once a month via Zoom. And so there's a lot of interaction with that. And you get not only some coaching from me and mentorship from me, but also other therapists that are in those beginning stages of their practices. And so I invite you to go over and check that out. And you can find out more about that by going to practiceoftherapy.com/launch club. And so invite you to check that out. And also, I might not have mentioned, be sure and check out James's information and find out more about him and what he's doing. And you can find those links here in our show summary and show notes for you to connect with James and learn how he can help you create those courses around topics that you're passionate about. So be sure and check that out. And also, big thanks to our sponsor of the podcast, TherapyNotes. And you can find out more about them by going to practiceoftherapy.com/therapynotes. And be sure and use the promo code just Gordon, GORDON, to try them out for 2 months for free. They're who I use in my practice and couldn't live without them. So glad they're with me on this journey. So take care, folks. Do take time to follow us wherever you might be listening to your podcasts. And love to hear from you. Love to see you in the Circle community, on the Practice of Therapy community on Circle. And hope to see you there. Take care, folks. You've been listening to the Practice of Therapy podcast with Gordon Brewer, part of the PsychCraft network of podcasts. You can find out more about the other great podcasts in the network by visiting psychcraftnetwork.com. And if you haven't done so already, please visit us at practiceoftherapy.com and get your free private practice startup guide, along with a lot of other great resources and webinars and free things just by visiting. Also, be sure to follow us wherever you might be listening to your podcasts. This podcast is intended to be educational in purpose and is not intended to give legal, accounting, or counseling advice. If you need a professional, find the right person for that.